Hiya, do you ever feel like your emotions are running the show? So one moment you're calm, the next you're anxious or exhausted, and it feels completely out of your control. So what if I told you that there's a nerve in your body? It's behind so much of that. Your mood, your stress, even your digestion. So this video is not about anatomy, don't worry. I know some, but I'm not an expert. It's about empowerment. And today we're talking about your vagus nerve. So this is like your body's superhighway for calm and connection. And I'm going to share with you some practical techniques you can start using today to regulate your nervous system and feel more grounded in your daily life. So this is all about what stress is, basically. So most people think that stress comes from the thoughts that are going around in their head, and it's all in their head. But often, and generally, it's actually in the body. It's your nervous system. Your nervous system doesn't feel safe. And so it creates a form of stress or anxiety, all these feelings going on. And it can be something that triggers it, that you're sometimes you're not even aware of what's triggering your nervous system to be out of balance. And it can come a lot from previous traumas, and they can be big traumas or little day-to-day traumas that build up. So we build up a history in our brain. So our brain builds up, and our nervous system builds up a record of things that have happened in the past. And when something similar happens, we then get that feeling of being unsafe, even though actually it's completely different and we are safe, but now we don't feel it. And what happens is that comes through as stress or anxiety and all those feelings. So we think that there's something else going on, when actually it's just an old wound being triggered. So that is basically what happens. Is when that wound is triggered, it puts us in the fight or flight response. But that's kind of like only part of it. So this is where the vagus nerve comes in. And this is the nerve that helps switch you into the rest or digest. And it connects to all your body up. So it's like your body's built in GPS for safety. So it kind of like sends all the signals around the body. And when we have the right vagal tone, we can find it much more easy to get into that rest or digest state. But when it's not, then you can get stuck in fight or flight. And that's when stress and anxiety really starts to build up. That's when we head into burnout, because we're stuck in fight or flight for too long and we don't know how to regulate ourselves to come back down into rest and digest. So when your vagus nerve is active and healthy, you feel calm, creative and connected, and you have all those lovely feelings. And when it's weak or dysregulated, that's when stress and anxiety take over. So there are lots of things that trigger the fight or flight for me. I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and I'm still very aware that it gets triggered. I'm very good at bringing myself back down when it happens. But very recently I was watching a program, and I don't know why, but when it finished, I found myself high up in fight or flight. And like looking back at it, I don't know exactly what it was, but there was something about the storyline, something about the way that it was going, that hooked into a memory I had, and that triggered the fight or flight response in me. And so it can be something as simple as that brings it up, and it's kind of learning. And this is not because I don't know how to cope that these things happen. It's because my nervous system gets out of balance. And so the fact that I've learned how to bring that back into balance very quickly has sort of made a huge difference to my life, because, we're going to experience things that put us into fight or flight. That's perfectly normal. We will almost deliberately put ourselves into fight or flight sometimes, and we need to be in that state. So the fight or flight is when we activate the sympathetic nervous system. So that will be activated when we're exercising. So if you're doing sort of like high intensity exercise, you're going to have to activate the sympathetic nervous system to be able to do that exercise. But also when you're doing you're doing some presentation, or you're doing something that requires kind of like there is a pressure there, you will activate a part of the sympathetic nervous system, because that's what gives you the adrenaline and the ability to follow through with doing it. Otherwise you wouldn't bother. So that it has a useful it has a useful element to it. So when we learn to regulate our nervous system, we learn how to, when we've used what we needed to from the positive side of that, to bring ourselves back into the ventral vagal state, or the really calm rest and digest state. And that's kind of like how we work it. So we're learning how to. So when we go into the fight or flight and we don't want to, we know how to bring ourselves back out again. So the vagus nerve, talk about that a little bit more. It's the kind of like the body's superhighway. So it starts at the brainstem and it travels all the way down both sides of the neck. And it touches down into your heart and your lungs, your diaphragm, your gut. So like gut instincts are linked to the vagus nerve, and it connects all the way down. So it's all the way down through the body, and all of those signals that we get, they all come from the vagus nerve. And it's one of the things it's relatively new science to kind of understand that this is what's causing all of these things. But it basically influences everything from your heartbeat to your digestion and your mood. So the vagus nerve is the messenger that switches you between that fight and flight, rest and digest, or there is the now known third state of the dorsal vagal, which is when we freeze. And people who suffer from overwhelm often end up in the freeze state. So people talk a lot about fight or flight or rest and digest, but when you're frozen, you're not fighting or fleeing, you're stuck. And that's when you find people who can't make a decision. They just feel so overwhelmed, they're not taking any action, they don't know what to do because they're just frozen. And so again, that the vagal nerve can help to bring you back into a calmer state. You almost would prefer to be in fight or flight than the freeze, because fight or flight, you can actually take action. When you're in freeze, that's when you feel like your life is like stuck because you don't know what to do. So all of that part of that regulation is bringing you back into a state where you can start to take action and you can think clearly. And that's when you want to get into the ventral vagal state, so you can start to make really, really clear what those decisions are. So the stronger your vagal tone, the easier your recovery from stress. So when you have something that puts you over into the fight or flight or into the dorsal, the stronger your vagal tone, the quicker you come back into the calm rest or digest state. You have better sleep, your digestion is better, and you have greater emotional resilience. So it's all of those things that build up. And a lot of those comes from building up that tone. So you actually have to do things to build it up. So signs that your vagus nerve is struggling, it's things like constant anxiety or racing thoughts, digestive issues like bloating or IBS, nausea, chronic fatigue or brain fog can be a really good indicator. So the brain fog would be more when you're stuck into, say, the dorsal vagal state. So you're in the freeze state. So you get brain fog, you can't think, nothing's clear, you're really tired because you've shut down. So you've gone into the freeze state. And you can feel it can bring on feelings of feeling disconnected with others. So in like real life, that feeling we've had a gut instinct, or that feeling that when you do something, like sometimes when you yawn and you just suddenly feel this great calm come over you and you feel the peace, that's when you've switched into that rest and digest. So that's your vagus nerve at work. So that gut instinct, that feeling of calm, that's your vagus nerve really kind of like doing the stuff for you. So just as something you can do right now is just notice your own body. Do you often feel wired but tired, or shut down, disconnected? So that's your vagal system sending signals. So that when you feel that wired but tired, and that's something I get quite a lot, I'm really tired, go to bed, wide awake, buzzing. My fight or flight is activated because I've got the adrenaline pumping, even though I'm tired. Or when you're shut down and disconnected. So at the end of the day, often you can shut down and your brain, like you're not resting in an active kind of positive rest. You're just like flopping and collapsing. You've had a really hard day. You've switched into the freeze mode because your brain is basically shut down. You don't want to spend time with people. You've closed right down. So that's like the signals. So you know where you are. It's starting to tune in and listen to where you are, what's happening for you and what's going on. So when you notice these things happening, there are practical tools you can use for regulation. And I'm just going to take you through 2 or 3 really simple techniques that you can just bring into your daily life and use when you feel that you need them. So one of them is diaphragmatic breathing. Now your diaphragm sits between basically your stomach and your lungs. And it's what helps you to breathe. It's what expands and contracts when you breathe. And one of the things that we do when we're stressed is we breathe up in our chest and our diaphragm stays quite tense and we don't expand fully. We don't expand that diaphragm. We don't expand into the stomach. So our breathing's quite shallow. And that's an instant indicator to our nervous system that we're stressed. So it's all refeeding. You're feeding the loop back in. So when you start to feel the stress, you breathe more shallowly. So you're now feeding the loop back in that, yeah, I am stressed. And that just continues the pattern. So when you breathe deeply, it's a signal to the body and the nervous system that you're safe. And that then feeds back into the system that you're safe. And that changes everything else that's happening as well. So the best way to do this is you want to be able to feel your breath. So you want to have one hand on your chest and one on your belly. And then as you inhale through the nose, feel your belly expanding. So you feel the hand on your belly pushing out. And then you want to try and think about expanding the ribs as you do this and then bringing up into the chest. So you really expand the whole body and then exhale, bring it down and feel the hand and the belly going down. So really deep exhale, long exhale, really bring the belly in, squeeze it out. And then inhale. And exhale, squeeze back down. And again, inhaling up. And exhale. So that's something you can do very easily. Once you get used to being able to do that deep breathing, you won't need the hands on your belly or your chest. So you can be sat anywhere and you can just do 2 or 3 really deep, expanding breaths. You can breathe out through your mouth or the nose, whatever feels more comfortable to you. Always breathing in through the nose. And just doing that, and that will just instantly, even if you see when I'm doing it, I'm speaking more slowly because it calms everything down. And it's just, only need to do maybe 3 breaths. And if you feel dizzy at any point, just stop, okay? Because what can happen is when we start to breathe deeply and we squeeze out those lungs, we push out the carbon dioxide, more oxygen gets in, floods the body, we get lightheaded. So just stop if that happens and just sit quietly and let your breathing just return to its normal rhythm. So another thing that you can try is cold exposure. Now, this is particularly good if you're stuck in the dorsal phase. So when you're frozen, because what happens is you essentially become disconnected from your body. So when you do something like this, you suddenly you reconnect yourself back in. So you can get some really, really cold water, as cold as you can, and splash it on your face. Or at the end of your shower, turning it on to the cold water for 10 to 20 seconds if you can bear it. I find that hard. But something like that, it's like a shock. But it actually, if you're stuck in that freeze state, it brings you straight back into your body and it can actually shift your nervous system significantly, just that short exposure. And it stimulates your vagus nerve and it actually tells your body that you're safe. Ironically, you think that it would put you under that fear, but that shock, because it reconnects you, it's like, oh, I'm in my body, and it brings you right back into your body. It's that idea of presence, of being there, and that actually is another signal to the nervous system. Oh, okay, I'm here, and that kind of actually calms things. And the final practice I want to share with you is a form of chanting. You can chant or hum. Now, often you hear people will hum om or sing om. So you might go, om. And that gives you the feeling. So the vibration goes to your chest and your throat, and that helps to stimulate the vagus nerve. So you can do that with them. Do that with you, or the om. Sorry, do that together with me. The om. So do it together, and we'll do it together. And I'll show you another one as well, where you can actually do more of a humming breath. So if we do the om, so inhale together. Om. That has a really great sensation in the body, and om is like a universal sound, contains all of sounds. It's a very calming noise. But if you don't want to do the om and that feels too hippy dippy to you, that's fine. You can hum a tune that you like, or you can actually do humming breath. So you can inhale and you just So you just hum as you exhale, and that sound, when you're doing that humming and your lips are together, you'll feel the vibration in your lips. You'll feel it going down through your body and just connecting with that vibration. That's a huge stimulation for the vagal nerve. So those are three things: the deep breathing, cold exposure, and the humming that you can do to really kind of like activate that vagal nerve. So long term, nervous system strength, it's not built in one session. So you're not going to do like one breathing session or one day chanting Om and your vagal nerve's going to be like toned and I'm done. It's then when you go into the gym, if you go to the gym and you're totally unfit, you're not going to go to once and be like, oh yeah, I look like Mr. Universe now. It takes time, you have to practice these things. And it's bringing in small but consistent habits. So unlike going to the gym, you don't need to go and spend however long doing specific exercises. You can do like 60 seconds here, 60 seconds there, and just little things. So every time you catch your nervous system in dysregulation, every time you do a short 2-minute exercise that brings your nervous system back down, you're building that vagal tone. And then there are other things you can do that will help to build vagal tone and build resilience over time. So that's things like positive social connections. So making real eye contact with people, laughter, getting hugs. When you feel dysregulated and you get a hug, I have a little boy, he's just about to turn 5. And when I'm feeling a bit dysregulated, I get a hug from him and it just regulates me straight away. And that can really help and be something that can help to build that resilience. Gentle movements can help as well. So yoga, walking, stretching, not hard exercise, gentle things, but also at the same time, when you're doing them, you are connecting to your body as you're doing them. So you're bringing that awareness in. So all those things, if you do yoga, people talk a lot, especially I've learned it with fitness. It helps you with proprioception, which is the awareness of your body in space. So the more yoga you do, the more aware of where your body is in space comes. But you also helps with interoception as well. So the more yoga you do, the more aware you are of what's going on inside. So it has the double kind of like benefit of the external knowledge and the internal knowledge. And then it's bringing in daily rituals. So 5 minutes of breath work, doing regular journaling, having mindful pauses throughout the day. So you're not just like push. All of those things can actually help to build up the strength of the vagal nerve, make you more resilient and actually help you cope with life better. So what I've found is the more that I weave these practices into my day, the less I'm knocked off balance by stress. Or if I am, I can just pull myself back much more easily. And it doesn't mean that life stops being stressful, because it is. I have an autistic son, I'm a single parent, I'm trying to run a business, I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm renovating my home at the same time. So there's lots of stress going on, but I can manage it better. And I know how to bring myself back to balance. And I don't allow myself to spiral. So when the negative thoughts come in the past, I would have just ended up going down the spiral and then it would have just been a negative loop. I don't end up in that negative loop anymore, because I know, like, I catch myself really quickly when I feel the loop start. I'm like, no, and then it just comes straight back out of it. So it has a huge benefit to you long term as you build that resilience. So just to remember that your emotions aren't running the show, your nervous system is. And when you support your vagus nerve, you're giving yourself the power to return to calm and connection, no matter what's happening around you. So just to think, for you, just something to think about is, what of these practices do you want to try first? So which one would you like to give a go? And just let me know in the comments, like, what appeals to you the most? Are you happy to start omming around your living room, or just deep breathing appeal to you more? And if you want to go deep with me, I'm explore rhythm-led nervous system practices in my free group, The Sacred Pause, on School, and I'll drop the link below. And just don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, and I'll see you again soon.